Creamer Media's Mining Weekly is speaking to Benny Oeyen, the head of market development for Anglo American. Benny, can you give us an update on the role that platinum group metals and hydrogen in particular is playing in making the world a better place?
In the bigger picture, we look at different opportunity areas. One big one, of course, is hydrogen, and we do a lot in there, and I will talk about that. Another one is batteries and storage, right? So you have to store electricity. Battery electric vehicles will take a big part of the market. It will not take the whole market, but a big part of the market. And we are now with Lion Batteries looking at a company, and we invested in a company that will develop technology, or is developing technology that makes batteries more energy efficient and more energy dense with PGMs, especially with palladium in it. But we're also looking at food technology. So food waste is a huge problem, especially in the developed world, where we buy too much and we throw a lot away because we let it rot. We buy too much. It sits in our refrigerators. It sits on our shelves and it deteriorates. And there is technology out there in food technology companies that we invested in now in Japan and in China called Furuya Ecotech. That will have a catalyst, a platinum-based catalyst in your refrigerator that will keep your food fresh longer. There is medical technology for new anti-cancer drugs that will minimize the side effects when you get cancer treatment. That's osmium and platinum-based. We do that together with the University of Warwick. Then a big new area, and I can't say too much about it, but computing. Many people think that computing and Bitcoin, for example, is very environmentally friendly, right? But actually, Bitcoin, for example, and there have been a lot of articles about it, that it consumes a lot of energy because of all the computing that's required. So low loss and efficient computing will become a key technology vector in the future. And the newest generation, the computer chip 3.0, will be one with PGMs in. That's what we are investigating now. We are doing a venture capital type of activities, venture building. We're starting new companies that look into that. And then there is also the whole space of material solution providers. So for example, aerospace is going to be a big booming sector. You see it. We're trying to fly to the moon again. We will fly to Mars. Again, there will be a lot of satellites that will provide the world with the high-speed internet without having to put cables everywhere. So, and with satellites, you need for the thrusters and in the materials, you need a lot of special alloys and special materials. And there we have a digital alloy company that can digitally mix and match materials with it, with a lot of PGMs in it. So you see, we are looking at a lot of different areas there. But of course, hydrogen is really at the heart of one of our opportunity areas, which is in the energy sector.
So it goes way beyond mobility and it goes into computers. How will platinum group metals make the whole computing scene more favorable in terms of climate change?
Well, listen, if you need more and more, and there has been articles on Bitcoin, right? All these centers, these data centers, they consume really a lot of electricity. If you make computers run quicker and more efficient, that would be a huge step forward. And at this moment, the computer chip, you have basically the chip that does the work, and you have a chip that contains the data. It's called a RAM, or random accessible memory. And so they go back and forth with data all the time, which takes time, which creates time delays, and which creates heat and consumes power, right? And if you could combine these two chips, which we call in-memory computing, then you have a big step forward. Until now, for all kinds of technical reasons that would go way beyond this interview here, it's not possible. But let me tell you, with PGMs, it is. So that's what we're looking at. This is really cutting edge, not for tomorrow or next year. There's going to be in several years that will take, but it could really revolutionize the computer technology, because it makes computers much faster, much more efficient, and consume much less electricity. And just for a daily usage, we will love it when our iPhone battery will last longer, right? Or our iPad. So we will all love it.
And can you give me an update on the research being done for the Lion battery and the use of, I think it's palladium, inside these batteries for battery electric vehicles?
Yeah, so that's something that I'm particularly proud of, that we do that. And there you see that Anglo American is, first of all, we're doing and we're believing in market development. That's number one. And secondly, we are revolutionizing and renewing market development. We're not stuck in the traditional market development field. So there, we're looking just strategically. There will be three types of propulsion systems that drive vehicles, right? It's internal combustion engines like we have today. It's battery electric vehicles that are coming up now in the smaller space, and it will be fuel cell electric vehicles for certain type of vehicles. Until now, in two of the three, PGMs were in. It's in the internal combustion engine with catalytic converters, and of course it's in the fuel cell, in the PEM membrane that PGMs will be deployed. There were none, almost none, in batteries. So, but batteries have a big problem, is the energy density, right? So that's what OEMs are looking for. Is what people want basically is a long range, and what OEMs want is to have, and people as well, is to have a smaller car and a more affordable car, but they're a little bit at odds with each other. If you want a long range, you will have to put a lot of battery in the car. It becomes very expensive. That's why a Tesla Model S weighs almost 2 tons and costs 100,000 euros, right? That's not really the heart of the market. If you go to more affordable cars, around the 20 or 25,000 euros or dollars, that's really where the heart of the market is. Your range will be compromised. So what you want is high energy density batteries. So that is with lithium sulfur and lithium air, but they have a cyclability issue. So if you recharge them 10 times or 20 times, they're basically gone. So it's not commercially viable. So what we found out with Lion battery is that we can solve that problem by putting palladium applications in the battery. And even while doing that, we discovered that the current lithium-ion battery, which is what is in all your battery electric vehicles now, can be improved by 30% when it comes to energy density. So it means with the same size of battery, you have 30% more range or more power, right? Or for the same range and power, you can shrink your battery by 30%, which gives you more space, less weight. This is really what the OEMs are after, and that's the solution we want to bring to the market with Lion batteries.
And what about stationary fuel cells now, and generating clean green electricity from a stationary fuel cell? Is that a viable proposition?
Yeah, I think that stationary fuel cells in certain applications can be a viable proposition indeed. So you have a lot of backup systems in the world. For example, in infrastructure that is absolutely necessary. I'm just thinking of radar towers or radar systems for approaches to airports, right? They can't have a power cut, of course, but if there is a power cut, they need a backup system. These backup systems are now diesel generators, but diesel generators are dirty and they have all kinds of issues with them. So that could be perfect fuel cells, backup systems, right? The same could be the case for mobile phone towers, right? We always need a backup system if there is a general power cut in the region or an area that you don't lose all communication. So that would be a typical one. And then I think you can go further, right? If you want to have power in remote areas, in rural areas, and you have green hydrogen production, which will come in the future. Green hydrogen production is ideal where you have a lot of wind, a lot of sun, and where you have water, right? It's these three things that you need: sun, wind, and water, and you can produce green hydrogen. Once you have production sites, etc., it's probably economically more viable to make stationary fuel cells to power and heat a whole area rather than burning gas or bringing in electricity from the grid, which might be far away, etc., etc. So no, we think there is a big opportunity for it. And then, of course, we're talking about the grid. If we're serious about having a zero carbon society, it means all our electricity have to be carbon free, which means in most areas of the world, it will be either wind or sun or nuclear. And for many reasons, nuclear is also not accepted, so it will be wind or sun. Unfortunately, we all know it's not always sunny, and we all know it's not always windy, so you need to store the energy. And storing energies for large areas like an entire city is not practical with batteries, but you can do it in hydrogen. Hydrogen can just be stored like you store natural gas today, and then when you need it, you run it through fuel cells who emit heat and electricity and water vapor, and you can power entire parts of cities or an entire city running on hydrogen. You cannot power a city like New York or Shanghai or London on a winter's night on batteries. That's just not possible right now.
And what about the clean sky issue? Are we getting closer to having clean skies with the aircraft? And what role will platinum group metals play there?
Well, listen, they are looking at different areas how to improve. So the first thing is that you can improve the fuel economy of the airplanes. And there, PGMs can play a role because you need very special coatings on the turbine blades. And there is already, the two leading ones, Airbus and Boeing, are looking at that. And their PGMs can play a role. But that's a step in the terms of going down, but not of going to zero. If you want to go to zero, there is a big debate out there. Can fuel cells power aircrafts? There is debate about it, whether it's practical or not. For sure, batteries won't cut it. So batteries will be so heavy, it makes no sense to take them up with you in the air. So it's going to be either fuel cells, probably for a few applications, it could be possible. But then there is biofuels. So you could have synthetic fuels with which you fly these airplanes, which then can fly with the current engines. That's a very practical solution. And biofuels you make using hydrogen. So again, and making green hydrogen, you need PGMs. So indirectly, PGMs will be in there as well. So I would say airplanes is still a little bit off. But I also would like to, and I don't want to deny the contribution that airplanes make, but I think if you look at the statistics, it's something like 3% of CO2 emissions are coming from airplanes. It is not, if you take all the airplanes away and airplanes don't exist in the world anymore, you will have solved 3% of the problem, right? So it's not everything, it's just one of the solutions.
And finally, what about the use of green hydrogen in heavy industry? We hear people say they're going to use it to produce steel. They'll get their iron ore processed with green hydrogen and turn it into green steel. Are we close to that?
Yeah, listen, I'm not a steel expert, but we are working with our clients. As you know, we're a diversified miner, and we have a lot of steel clients among our clientele, and they're all looking at it because everybody is committed to emit less. Steel industry is a big polluter or a big emitter of CO2, I should say. And yes, it is possible. I think it's called DRI, direct reduction. Steel, so you can use it. So most of I can almost say all of the big steel makers are definitely looking into that. The issue that you have there is the issue that you always have. You also have it with fuel cell electric vehicles. Now you have it with every nascent technology, is that it's more expensive, right? It is more expensive than the current technology. But over time, and with a political willingness and creating a legislative environment around it, that this can thrive over time, this will slide down on the cost curve, right? So it will become more competitive. But yes, they're absolutely looking at that. And the same is for chemical feedstock. So green hydrogen, if you have hydrogen and CO2, if you put them together, that's a feedstock for a lot of chemical industry that we have. So hydrogen is popping up really everywhere. And what a difference. Martin, we talked, I think last time face-to-face 2 years ago, and then hydrogen was still like an exotic thing. We looked at it from a distance. And if you look what happened now in 2 years, it's amazing. And hydrogen is almost on the front pages weekly. And people are really realizing that hydrogen is a hot ticket in town. And so will it be for transportation.
That was Creamer Media's Mining Weekly, speaking to Benny Oeyen, the head of marketing for Anglo American.